last night I went on a scroll through my phone, and I have a lot of pictures on there from like many, many years ago. Like it just goes back years and years and years. And I think I inspired myself through my own progress pics.
Really?
You know, sometimes when you go through social media and you're scrolling and you're like, oh, I wish I looked like that. Well, you're not on social media, but that is usually what happens. You scroll and you're like, ooh, I want that dress, or ooh, I want those shoes, or ooh, I want that body, or whatever.
Right.
And it kind of often will inspire you to go and do something about it, you know, shopping or running or whatever. And I did that to myself, by myself. All right, episode 2 of Roulette. You want to just jump right into it?
I think we should.
Let's just do it. Let's just jump right on in. Oh, I keep going. Jump. There we go.
You're good.
Jump, jump, jump.
You can pop those peas.
I can pop them peas.
It's your show. Right. You do what you want.
Is it my show? I thought it was our show.
Well, I guess it is our show.
All right. Ooh, all right. Let's start off with a nice one for the morning. Always check the traffic. What does that mean, Ryan?
It means we live far away from work, like 20, 25 minutes away. Well,
yeah,
15, 20, depending how fast you drive. And every morning when I get on the interstate, we have like 10 miles on the interstate. And if you get on and it's backed up, you have to sit there for hours. And it's not that hard just to check the traffic.
Well, because you can't see until you've gone onto the ramp. That's kind of when you know. Some people can kind of get a glimpse of the highway before they get onto it, so they can decide not to. We kind of can't see it.
There's no exit for 10 miles.
Yeah.
So
once you're on it,
10 miles, you're stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
And I even did it once where I got on the interstate and saw that it was completely stopped, and I was still on the on-ramp, and I put it in reverse and reversed all the way back. Yeah.
That's bad.
But my rule, well, I was checking the traffic every day for a while. Like every day right before I get on the interstate, I'd pull up in Apple Maps and I'd be like, okay, is the interstate clear? And every day it was clear, no problems. And then one day I consciously was like, I don't need to check it. It'll be fine. Like, I just don't want to deal with it. I got on the interstate and it immediately stopped, and I was there for like an hour and a half. And so while I was sitting in that traffic, I pulled out my phone and I was like, always check the traffic.
So this is a little more practical.
It's a literal rule. Just when you go anywhere, it doesn't take that long to just find out if there's something that lies ahead. And if you can find that thing out, why wouldn't you take the 2 seconds that'll save you hours of your life?
Right. Although, I do have to say, very recently, like last week, I think, you texted me and said, hey, don't take the highway because there's lots of traffic. And it was about 30-ish minutes later that I got in the car, and I looked, and Apple Maps, it's like hooked up on my car, so it will always show me. And it said, take the interstate, traffic is light. And I was like, cool. And then I go, and you can't even get onto the on-ramp. It was blocked by like local security guards or whatever. And I look over when I had to do a U-turn and go the other way, and it had been stopped. Just nobody was moving. And it looked like it had been like that for hours. It was just on both sides of the bridge. And I was just like, Apple Maps? How dare you?
I know. They're trying to trick you.
How dare you lead me astray?
That's why you listen to me.
I know. You knew more than the robots that tell me
it's true
what to do. All right. So that was pretty practical.
Yeah. And I think there's, more philosophical things to it too.
I guess you could.
Always look ahead and at least see the things that you're capable of seeing. If you have the capability of looking down the road a few minutes and seeing whether there's going to be major devastation or not, just do it. Don't turn a blind eye because it's inconvenient or whatever stupid excuse you have.
Or lazy. Just like, I don't care because whatever comes. Well, if you could avoid it.
If you can avoid something that's going to just be nonsense and isn't going to help you in any sort of serious way, just avoid the nonsense.
Okay. That's good. See? You can always pull it back to some sort of philosophical thing.
I can always attempt to.
Yes. All right. Here's our next one. You ready?
Yes.
Does this look better open or closed?
I think it looks fine either way.
Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. You ready? Answer the why with the past instead of the future. The why. I'm going to have to bleep that out?
Yeah. Totally.
All right, I will. But should I say it again just for those who maybe got thrown off by that bleeping sound? Answer the why with the past instead of the future? The why. Now, you wrote this one. This was one that we had like lengthy conversation about. So I want you to go first.
Yeah, well, this one's tough, and I may be completely off on it, and I may switch my entire opinion of it by the end of this thing. I don't know. But I do know that when I focus on why all the time, why something is, I get caught up in the minutia. Well, and I can't hit the bottom. There's an endless pit that you're diving into. But if you look at what is, like, okay, go back to I have anxiety before I fall asleep. Why? Well, let's go back into my past and let's try to make sense of it. Well, you can go down that road forever, and maybe you get to something, you're like, this is it. But even your memory, like you said, could be tainted. It could be changed. Or maybe you think that that's it because the real thing that it is too difficult to even think about.
Sometimes people like to land on things because it gives them peace to be like, that's why.
Right.
But that doesn't help you. That doesn't stop it. That doesn't change it necessarily.
So I think that if you look at the what it is and then how you can fix it is a lot more beneficial, specifically even for that example, like the anxiety thing. Going into the why doesn't help as much as how and what. So what am I experiencing and how can I fix it? Because
you're a pragmatist. You're somebody who says, if I don't like having anxiety before I go to sleep, then I'm going to what? What are some things? Because we've talked about this a couple days ago, and you essentially solved this issue. Is that how you would put it, maybe? Or at least 90% of it is gone?
Yeah, temporarily. I mean, I hope it's permanent, but time will tell. Fixed that issue.
How did you do that?
I'm not quite sure. I think it's a lot of things. I changed a lot of things and started having a lot of different new like habits and rituals in my morning routine, which forced me to get up earlier and earlier. And I think part of it was just not being so tired when I went to sleep, like not staying up so late. I think a lot of things are just habitual and they're just routine. So if you get anxiety every night at 9:30, well, maybe go to sleep before 9:30. And I think that was part of it. I think going to bed at 8:30 for a while really helped me not get triggered when that same time rolled around every night.
Right.
The other thing would be just I was sleeping more because of that, because I was tired because I was running. And so I think it was a combination of running, which obviously alleviates anxiety.
Wait, sorry, you're sleeping more because you're running? I don't understand that.
Well, I think I was just more tired.
Before you started running? Or after?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Some people
I don't
say
know how I did it.
If you don't
I have no idea.
Some people, well, maybe I could give you some insight, because I think sometimes it's hard to talk about yourself because you're not like trying to sell a program or something where it's like, this is what you need to do.
If I had a program, I would sell the program.
But that's not the point of this. I think, so some people are, and I think for me, I've experienced this where if I'm not physically active, then I do get more tired, which is weird because you go, well, I'm tired, so I need to sleep, which sounds like the opposite of if you get up and go running, you'll have more energy, and therefore your sleep schedule will just be better, as in when you are tired, you go to sleep, and then when you're no longer tired, you wake up. So
Right.
that's one part of that, which sounds backwards. So for people who are not exercising, they go, I'm tired all the time. How am I going to ever have the energy to do it? It's going to be really hard the first few weeks or whatever. And you've been doing this for a while, so maybe you forgot what it was like when you were first starting out. But it's not easy. It's not easy to change that habit. Secondly, you, like you said, have a great morning routine, which means you get everything set back in order. You do the dishes, you clean, you organize, you do things that kind of set you up for success for the day. There's nothing that you have to like worry about to do later. And then, like you said, you're running, you're going in the sauna, you're taking a shower, you're listening to books, you're listening to podcasts that you enjoy that are educational.
To be fair, I showered before this whole thing. That was always a part of my routine, was to shower. That wasn't a new part of the routine.
Right. And you've stopped using synthetic scents, and you've been cleaning with only vinegar. So you've tried to really change how you see your body, how you see your mind, how you see the things, really like everything in your life. You've really change a lot of those things. But recently you've done something. Oh, and we've talked about before that you've been breathing through your nose while you run, which is a huge thing. And maybe someday we'll talk more extensively about that, because
taping my mouth when I'm asleep.
Yes. Breathing through your nose was a huge life-changing thing. Maybe we could do a whole podcast just about that, because I do feel like that was almost a secret little switch that was set off for a lot of things. Anxiety also. We talked a little bit about the carbon dioxide thing and oxygen. So there's just a lot of that when in relation to anxiety. So for people who are interested, maybe if you want a whole podcast just about that, let us know in the comments, because I think it's very intriguing. But along with that, are you wearing it right now? Your little Pavlok?
Yes.
Will you please explain that? Because that is something that you have done that I think plays into what we're talking about, because you are a pragmatist. You are somebody who tries to do what needs to be done, and you don't just do the first thing that comes to your mind. The way you think is very logical. So a lot of times, just like checking the traffic, you kind of have to think through each step. But you are somebody that you've now made a habit out of doing the thing that you're supposed to do. There's no longer someday I'll get in shape, or someday I'll eat healthier, or someday I'll do this or whatever. There was a time of that. And maybe that's where you spent a lot of time looking into the why. And you're like, no, we need to move forward. We need to look to the future and say how. And so this Pavlok thing is basically helping you with cognitive behavioral therapy, which is something that you've talked about a little bit before. But will you explain what that thing is and what it does to you? Because it's insane.
Well, I read the book Irresistible, which is all about like addiction to technology, basically. And then I went out and bought a piece of technology. So the book failed. No, it was really interesting. And they talked about this product in the book. And it's just a armband that you wear, and if you hit the button, it shocks you. And so,
will you do it? What percentage is it on right now?
I don't know. I haven't used it today.
Well, you accidentally had it on 100% the other day, and it shocked you 5 times in a row.
It's been messed up, and occasionally when I hit the button, it shocks me a bunch of times at a way higher percentage.
And the other day, you grabbed it with your fingertips, which are very sensitive, and it shocked you.
I thought it was on vibrate mode. It was on shock the hell out of me mode.
Right? Can you do it just so people can see? I want to
Sure.
watch on this thing.
Hit the button.
It's like a little Harry Potter.
I'm a little sweaty, so I'm really concerned that it's gonna.
It'll be entertaining.
It's gonna shock the hell out of me.
Do it for the podcast, Ryan. Here we go. Okay, so it's almost like a muscle spasm. It doesn't like zap you to where there's going to be a mark left over or something. And you can go on just beeping, just vibrate, or a very low percentage. I tried it at 10, 30%?
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's usually not that intense. Like if you have it on 10 or 30%, you barely feel it.
Right.
But sometimes you have it on 10 or 30% and it shocks you 5 times in a row at 100%. And it is startling. I mean, it's like...
So some people can use it to wake up in the morning. Some people use it for really whatever. If you bite your nails, it zaps when you put your hand up. So it's interesting. But what do you use it for?
So I've been using it. I've had issues in the past, and it comes and goes, of different kind of obsessive compulsive tendencies. And one of those tendencies is to manifest symptoms of a sickness that I don't actually have. And so during a global pandemic, I feel like I've had a constant feeling of, oh, I'm getting sick. Oh, my throat's sore. Oh, whatever. But like even, going into the past, it's like, oh, do I have cancer? My throat hurts. My neck hurts. My shoulder hurts. It can be anything. And so one of the things that I've done in the past is you do some sort of when you have that thought or you have that feeling, you have to kind of write out a new narrative. That's the first thing. So I realized, okay, I need to get this under control. And so I took and wrote down the new narrative that I'll run anytime I have those feelings, anytime I feel the throat start to close up and I think, oh my God, I'm sick or whatever.
Because that would also be a loop. It's not just like you had the thought and it's like, oh, whoops. It's like you would get stuck in it and then it would become, like you said, obsessive.
It's obsessive. So you just think about it over and over again. It just loops back into it. It gets worse and worse and worse. And it can really go off the rails. Yeah. So I have a very mild form of this compared to a lot of people. Like if you go and read about people that suffer from major OCD or hypochondria, like it can get severe.
Yeah.
But during this whole thing, I've really had to keep it in check. And I knew that when this whole quarantine thing started, that I would go off the rails very quickly if I didn't change a lot of things and get my mental state really into order. So that's why I started the routines in the morning and running and changing my sleep schedule and diet and all these different things. So with all that, towards the end of this whole thing, when things are getting better, I've been so kind of taking like precautions, being around people, being in rooms with people, all that stuff. And I need to start to get out of that because I don't want to solidify that as being my new normal forever.
Yeah. You don't want to be scared of people forever. You don't want to be scared of going places.
No. And now that I think there's a rational point to be made of like, okay, it's time to get back to life as normal. You can't just go, oh, well, numbers are down in the area. Things seem to be pretty good. And we can kind of get back to some sort of normal. I can't just do that because my mind is still in the be safe, wipe down all the groceries when they come in, like that whole thing. So one of the things that I had to start doing was intentionally saying, okay, I need to start to fix some of these aspects of my own psyche. And using cognitive behavioral therapy is part of that, or some sort of modified version of it. But basically, when I have that thought, when I think, oh, I'm feeling sick or whatever, I have gone and written out new scripts now that basically hit on 4 different points. Like I am good, happy, healthy, and strong. Those are kind of the 4 bullet points. And so when I feel that feeling, as soon as I feel it, I shock myself. And so that startles me, realize like, okay, and here's the new narrative. And so I say this thing either out loud if I'm alone or to myself if I'm with people in a meeting or whatever. And I start running that new narrative. And even though I have it all written out, I kind of just try to say it in my own words and remember the things. I don't have it fully memorized. I'd rather have it memorized by heart, which means I don't need it word for word. I just know it. I know it like...
You think it.
I know it intimately. And so then I run that narrative, and I also, if I can, I change my behavior. So I try to get up from where I'm at and move. I try to do something else. I try to not sit there, not be in the same place, and not have the same thought process go through. And yeah.
So that's
kind of the idea.
A milder version is a rubber band. People may
Yes.
have heard that. You snap your...
They just talked about it
with
on Joe Rogan with Bridget.
Don't know
whatever
her last
her name
name.
is. They were talking about this
Yes.
same thing actually,
Yeah.
which is pretty funny.
Right. So I want to kind of get back to our little rule here because I think the way that I kind of see it is there's 2 sections. It's almost, you can either look at it as a right or left or an up or a down, which is the past and the future. And I think with this example right here that we just talked about, one of the things you could have done to work on yourself was to do a deep dive into the past, to say, why am I the way that I am? Why do I have OCD? Where did these come on? And I think that is a powerful tool if somebody has not done that before. If you refuse to look at the past, if you refuse to look at things that have happened to you, it can be a very powerful thing to go back and look. But it's almost one of those things that you do rarely. You don't go and you live your life back there. You don't go back there and you say, I need to figure out what this thing is. And like you said, sometimes you land on something and you go, I figured it out. I know what it is. But if you can know, that may not be it. That may not be it. And then take what you've learned from that deep dive into the past and asking why and all of those things. You do that for a moment. And we kind of talked about this. Maybe every 10 years, you go back and you look over your life and you say, what have I learned from this? What are the things that happened to me? How did I respond to it? How is it still affecting me? Because things affect you, even if you don't have it consciously in your mind going, the person who said this or did this or whatever is still affecting me. So I think a deep dive into the past should happen occasionally and for a brief moment. I don't think that it's something that should just be, since you can't ever know, or since your memories may be wrong, or since whatever, you shouldn't go back there. Right. I think that it's valuable for, if you do it honestly. I think that's the other big thing is you can't go back and try to change things. You can't go back and try to change you or people or hold on to things. It is merely like walking through a maze. You know, you go through it, and the goal isn't really to get to the end of it. It's to know that there is a maze there, and whatever you find in there is kind of, it can be interesting. You can use it. But so there's that side of it. But then the more important thing is right now and the future. So it's like you're informing yourself of what has already happened just to get a calibration of where you are in your life. But turn around and focus on the forward movement, focus on the future. And that's where you ask how, you ask what, and that is where you make those changes and then you do those things. I think where the past and asking why can really trip people up is you can easily get stuck back there. You can easily not want to move forward in the future because the past is so attractive, because you run 1,000 what ifs. You know, like a conversation you had with somebody 5 years ago that ended badly. You go, well, what if I said this? Or what if they said this? You can do that all day long, probably for the rest of your life. So don't do it.
Well, I would also say that I don't think the future is the place to be either.
Yes. It's almost the same thing on both sides, and you have to understand what each of those do. I think people who look to the future with, rose-colored glasses and this very utopian view, I think can get very out of touch with reality. And I think that happens in both directions. So I like to look at it as, like I said, an up and a down kind of a thing, or a forward and a backward. But the why and the past and all of that, that's like almost you're wearing weights and you're sinking down into an endless well. And so you have to be very careful about that. But the future, you can float too high to where your feet don't touch the ground anymore. And then you are no longer able to even do anything either direction. So I just feel like knowing what the utility of asking why and looking into the past is important. The way I see it is that's 10%. That's every once in a while you do that. And then looking to the future is simply just to know, like they say, a bullet shot into space or whatever, if it's off like a half a degree or something, will miss the target by miles and miles and miles, whatever that thing is. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Sure.
But the further the thing has to travel, the more off you are, the more off it'll be when it gets the target. Is there like a principle for that? I'm sure if we talk to some science person, they would know.
If you're off a very small degree on your aim,
yes,
and you're aiming for something very, very far away, then it'll have a major change in what you're aiming at, is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think having a direction that you want to go, but then your major focus is on those little steps that you're taking every day. And you look up occasionally to say, am I still on the right track? And then you look down and it's almost like watching your little feet step.
I think that this depends on the place that you are in life too. Because even in the mornings, like right now, I'm running, and sometimes I don't want to keep running. I want to walk, or I just don't want to go out. And so while you're in the middle of the run, sometimes I'll look as far as I can, like to where I can't even see around the bend, and I have to look as far as I can, and that's what keeps me going. And then there's other times that if I'm looking out too far, then I just am like, there's too far to go, and I have to look just at my feet.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, is there a book on, I'm sure there is, somebody that's mastered the art of running and how to go further and how to not fall into the traps of all that. But I think, honestly, it changes day to day for me.
Yeah.
Some days I'm like, I have to just look at my feet. That's helping me, like, zone out. I don't want to know where I am on this journey. I just have to zone out and look at my feet. And then other days, it's like, I have to look as far away as I possibly can. And one of the things that I've done in my life that I know hasn't been beneficial, I used to be a bit of a dreamer. If anybody knows me, they know that I've had ideas for inventing things and even started companies.
Not just ideas, though. I was going to say, you've actually physically built things that you've invented.
Yes. I've gone down the rabbit trail when it comes to that stuff. And I've had ideas, and this is going to be the one, and have these big dreams and big ambitions. And there's a point in life where I said, okay, I'm not dreaming anymore. I don't want to dream anymore. I want to see something. And I've always been a doer. Like, I love seeing things come through. So it's not like I just dream and don't do anything about it. It's that I had gone too far into the dream and not far enough into the doing.
Yeah.
And so I think it was about a year, maybe 2 of my life that I spent not dream. I wouldn't allow myself to think of the future. I wouldn't allow myself to dream of anything new. It was all just, okay, here's what I have, and I'm going to make the best of it. And I'm going to work on these few things. And there's tons of books and philosophies written about that. But one thing that I found was that I lost touch with this kind of fantastical, ideal, dream-like future. And a lot of the motivation kind of fell out from under me. because you would achieve the things that were in front of you and you'd achieve them again and again and again. And then you'd go, but what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
There is no, this is as good as it gets. There's no real thing out there because I've killed the ideal.
Yeah.
I've killed it. And now all I have left is just to deal with this and the mundane. And so, I don't know, for me, and I'm sure there's some people that would resonate with it and some people that would see it completely different, but I have to almost oscillate between the looking into the future very, very hard and very far, and then saying, no, I can't look at it at all. I have to just put my head down and do this.
Right.
Look at my feet.
Yeah. And I think that also goes for the way that I kind of look at the past. Like there was a time when I was very caught up in trying to figure out why I am the way I am and, you know, all of those things. And I think really what we're saying is it has to be in moderation on either side. And all of those things are valuable and important. And I think it depends on, I think all of this probably comes back to self-awareness, just knowing what is it that you need to not fall off of the track that is actually making your life better. Sometimes not falling off the track means you have to look back and focus on some stuff. Maybe it means you have to look very far into the future and dream. Maybe it means you stop doing both of those things and you just do the thing that you are supposed to do, the thing that you don't really want to do. I think kind of what we're saying is it's going to change day to day, but 99% of what people do every day is the same. So make sure that the thing that you are doing is actually good for you.
Well, the phrase that always annoys me, the thing that I think this all stems from, is people that you'll talk to and they often say like, oh, I just have to figure that out. I gotta figure this out. I gotta figure that out.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that mean? What are you doing? Figure it out. You need to think about it. Are you going to go sit alone for several hours and think about it? Because that would probably be really productive, honestly. But you're not going to do that. So what you're saying you need to figure it out means you're not going to do anything.
Yeah, you're going to delay and either let life figure it out for you. That's funny. On Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Boyle says the Boyles are known for delaying decisions and then life just makes it for them. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because some people live their lives that way. They say delay, 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 and then the thing is forced upon them and they go either, oh, great, or no, that's not what I wanted. Right. And it's like, well, you had 10 other opportunities to do something different, but eventually, and this is what I love about, like, I overheard, because you're watching the Cosmos season 3, I think.
Yes.
Season 3. I think I overheard, maybe it was something else, sorry, but something about how ever since the start of the universe, everything's been expanding. And so if everything's in movement, if everything is continuously expanding out, that means eventually change will happen. I mean, we know people age, we know, things go through. If you don't mow the grass is going to overtake the house. Like, there are things that we can see with the passage of time. And I think the same is true for decisions and things like that. Eventually, that figuring it out thing, it's going to run its course. And suddenly there is you have to do something now or you will die. And I think the secret to life, I think, is, and you say this sometimes, and this is also where you get misunderstood a lot. So maybe you can talk about it. But if you act as if you have control over the things that you do and the things that you say and what happens in your life, and if you act as if other people don't have control over that, what it does is it makes you responsible for everything that you do, and it makes you look at other people as not responsible for what they do, as in, I'm not going to get upset by this person because there's probably some thing going on that's affecting them this way or whatever. And it makes you look at the world in a way that you forgive people, you move past it, it's all good, but it makes you look at yourself as, this is all on me. I am the one who is supposed to control my life and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, man, that's a whole thing in and of itself. This is the problem I have. I think that people often get frustrated with their friends or their family or whatever, and they say things like, well, they just need to, and this isn't what they say, but this is what they mean. That person just needs to will themselves into a better life, into making better decisions. They're just making bad decisions. They have the ability to make better decisions, and yet they make the bad decision, and that's frustrating for me.
Mm-hmm. Like
And-
if like they could do it. It's right there. They could do it, and it seems so easy
right.
when you're
It's like
looking at it.
they just need to will themselves
Yeah.
to do it. But here's my big issue. For 2.5 years of my life, I fell out of working out. I fell out of all my routines. I fell out of eating the best. I fell out of all those things. And all I wanted was to do those things. I wanted them more than I knew that it would fix me, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't get it together. No matter how much I willed myself to do it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I didn't have the will to do it.
Right.
And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know why 2.5 years of that, and then all of a sudden it clicks and I can do it, and I'm doing what I need to be doing. I don't know, but it made me really realize I need to cut a lot of people a lot of slack and just kind of assume that they don't have the will to just make the correct decisions right then and there, and that I need to give more understanding and more sympathy to those people, and not expect people to just do the right thing all the time.
Right. And I know people say like doing the right thing is hard. Sometimes it is impossible. It seems like it's impossible for some people. And I've also experienced something like that where it's like, I know what I want. I know what I want to do. I know how to get there, but you just can't do it.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah. And I don't know what the trick is to get there.
Some people
know
have
what it is.
ideas, some people have answers, but honestly, it's different for everyone, I think.
Here's the thing, like, what is it that makes you interested in something? I read this book by Ben Greenfield during the start of quarantine. I was like, oh, okay, I'm interested in this guy. He's like a self-experimenter, hacker, biohacker. Like, oh, drink this, eat this, and it'll do these things. Shine this light.
I can't tell you why it works, but it does.
Right, exactly. Kind of one of those things,
Yeah.
which again kind of talks about my whole general philosophy with that whole why thing. It's like, we don't know why, we just know that it works, so why not do it, kind of thing. And so I was reading this book, which is like forever long. I forget what it's called, Boundless. And I started getting interested again in diet. I started getting interested again in health, like all of these things. So, but where did that come from? Can I force myself to be interested in being healthy? Can I force myself to be interested in doing those things?
I don't think so. I don't think interests
know.
can be fabricated. I think, for instance, I've often wondered why I have some sort of draw to horses. And through time, as I've gotten older, I think that draw has kind of shifted away a little bit, but I'm sure if I'm around horses again, that's going to spark right back up. I also think as you get older, you get more fearful because you realize, oh, this animal can kill me. But I feel like I was born with it. I feel like I was born with an interest in horses. And I have often wondered why, where does that thing come from? I'm interested in movies and creative things. Where does that come from? Because if somebody comes to me with something that I am not interested in, I don't think there is a way to make me interested unless they draw a parallel to the things I am interested in. And I think for you, there was a time of your life that you were interested, and this was one of those things that you wanted. And so I think you saw that small opening with this guy that, as you listen to him, because he's had several podcasts with Joe Rogan, right? So you can hear him speak.
Yeah, he's a goofy character, by the way.
You're not recommending people.
I'm not saying he's like one of my favorite people in the world, but he's got some interesting takes on things.
Right. And so perhaps you were looking for that opportunity and he happened to spark something in you about the biohacking and about, we don't really know why this works, but it does. And perhaps it was something that you were going, oh, if I just do this thing and I start to see changes, maybe that will be kind of the thing that just piles and piles like the snowball. Like maybe the very first thing that you needed was saying, will this work? Well, let me see. Let me just try it out. Because we know eating right and exercising help, right? But what if we didn't know that? And somebody one day was like, hey, if you go running every day, your anxiety is going to come down, blah, 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 like all the things that we know. But what if nobody had ever said it and it was suddenly this brand new idea? I guarantee you a lot of people would try it just to see if it works.
Well, it depends what it is too. Like even with a buddy of mine that works over here, the other day he's like, I'm so tired. I just don't know what to do. I'm so tired all the time. And I just don't know how to fix it. was like, really? You don't know? I said, go to bed and eat better and get up and are you exercising? No. What are you eating? Crap. Are you sleeping well? No. Like, okay, well, you know how to fix it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. I'm like, but why don't you do it?
Comes back to the will thing.
And that's what I said. I was like, I'm not blaming you. I'm not shaming you by any means. I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to tell you how to get over it.
Yep. For you, I think it happened gradually. It was just something that you looked at each day and you said, today, I'm just going to do this one thing. And then the next day, okay, since I'm already doing this one thing, I'm going to try this next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it grew. And then the other day you said you did all of those morning chores and you suddenly like came to and realized you had done it without even thinking about it.
Yeah. Like
so you've built a habit around it now.
I came out of because the last step of part of the morning routine is that I go into the office and I open my computer and drink my coffee. And so I like sat down my coffee and my computer and I went back into the room. I'm like, did all the dishes and cleaned the living room, but I don't remember doing it.
Yeah.
I was like going out to
do it.
It's weird.
Little elves came through.
Yeah.
Little Keebler elves. Okay. I think that was a good one. I think that was good. Oh, this is a big one. This is a big boy. Oh, whoa. I've just never seen this one. All right. So there's two things, and I'm assuming you'll explain it.
Okay.
Colorful poison.
Oh, that's not a rule.
Oh, is this just something you're ordering on Amazon? All right, so I got a new one. Here we go. Should this be the last one for today? How long have we been going? Okay. I think we already went through this. A leisurely cup of coffee with an acquaintance is reserved for retirement.
Yeah, that's a duplicate.
Okay. Well, then we get to fish for one more. Let's see. Which one? Oh, okay. He latched on. Oh, hit the microphone.
Okay.
Sorry, it closed and I couldn't. It's too long of a pause. Decide what you, in parentheses, should want before you start to want it.
This is one of my major rules.
All right.
This is definitely one that
it's a big boy.
You want to explain it?
No. This is your rule.
Okay.
Because I don't know if I agree with it. Just go ahead.
Well, there's this whole thing where I realized someday, and I tried to attribute this to Mike, my buddy Mike, and he didn't take claim to it, so I don't know where it came from. So if anybody knows where it came from, or you read a book somewhere that you feel like this was talked about, please let me know, because I don't know where it came from. But somewhere along the way, I realized that you can lay out and decide to want what you want. Does that sound right?
So this is not the same as interests.
I don't think so. This is more so like, I'll use an example because we work in production. I love camera gear and stuff like that. I was real excited about getting a Red camera, and then I was real excited about getting an RE camera. And then ultimately what we decided to get was Blackmagic cameras, which are significantly cheaper than the other cameras. Mm-hmm. And when I was all about getting a Red, I was researching Reds all the time. I was watching reviews. I was looking at footage. I was looking at prices. I was on eBay trying to find good deals all the time. Mm-hmm. And then at some point I go, okay, but what is the thing that I should want? What is the camera that I should want? Because Red's going to cost me $25,000 to $30,000. Should I want that? What are the other options, and what am I actually getting for that? So I was able to become, I don't think you can become fully objective, but I was able to become objective enough to go, okay, the Blackmagic doesn't make me as excited, but this is the thing that I should want because it's giving me 95% of the features that I would use, maybe even 98% of the features. Since I'm making up random percentages, I mean, what does it matter? And it cost $1,200 compared to like $30,000. And so what should I really want to want? What would be the better thing for me to be excited about? This camera. This one makes more sense. But it didn't make me excited like the Red did. But what I realized a long time ago or whenever is that you can just, if you start watching things on that, if you go to their website and read it from them, you let the marketing and stuff seep into you, and you stop looking at red. Don't look up red anymore. Just start looking. Well, I don't know anything about the black magic. Well, that's because I don't want one. And so then you start manipulating yourself to want the thing, to let that marketing infiltrate you, to really try to understand their brand, to read their Wikipedia page, see like who started this company. You start to go down the rabbit trail and find out more about this thing.
You become a fan.
You become a fan.
You get hyped.
Yeah. So you just sell yourself the way that everybody else is trying to sell you on that thing. And at the end of the day, I'm a huge Blackmagic fan. I'm a huge fan of this camera, and it costs me so much less than anything else. Same with I drive a 2003 Honda Element, and I love it. It's about to hit 130,000 miles. It cost me $4,500 a few years back, and I really wanted to get a new truck, like a Toyota Tacoma. I've always wanted one. And then when looking how much I'd have to spend on it, how much the insurance was, like all this stuff, I realized, okay, I need to want this Element in the same way that I want the Tacoma. So I started looking up pictures of, what if I did the inside like this, and I need to fix this.
What if we painted it this color that I want in the Tacoma that I really like? But
exactly.
Yeah.
You start looking at it through a new lens, and you start selling yourself, reading the history of the Element, and you go to the forums where people love it, and you just immerse yourself in that thing. Well, at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't care about the Tacoma anymore. I'm just excited that I have this Element. And now I want to fix it up a little bit in this way to make it better and this and that.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do that with, like, I don't know if you can do it with anything. You can do it with so many things.
Well, it sounds like the big motivator in this thing, though, is financially. Do you have any examples where the thing that you wanted wasn't motivated by...
by being cheap?
Yeah, well, it's not really by being cheap. And this is something that I think we latched onto a while back and we're very proud of now. It's not that we're cheap. We're not cheap people, but we are very proud of the fact that we do not feel lack from having a small house. We love it. We do not feel lack from driving used cars. I love my car. I think the same thing happened to me. I became kind of obsessed because I was thinking through the car that we were going to get. And then when it wasn't available, I felt like devastated. I'm like, no. And then I went and I found the one that I drive now, which is exactly the thing that I was excited about. It's a Prius. I love my Prius. So I think it worked for me, especially on cars, because the whole Element thing, the reason we went on that trail is because I was going to have to drive it and it's a stick shift. And I was like, I don't want that to be my all the time car. Like, it's fun to drive it occasionally. And so we went on this trail and I'm like, okay, if we could soup it up and if I could drive it all the time, blah, blah, blah. And then I think that got you really excited. And then that kind of shifted me to be like, well, then I'll think about this other thing. So we were very proud of the fact that we don't feel this, like, I wear the same outfits all the time. And I used to feel like I needed new clothing all the time and I needed to be up on style and I needed to make sure if, Paris Hilton says she's never been photographed in the same outfit twice. And I just go, that must be so stressful. I love having a few things. And if people see me recycling the same outfit, it used to be something that bothered me, but no longer, because I don't find my worth in those kinds of things. And I guess they're just material things, like in the house, in the car, and things like that. Now, I don't want to drive a car with like a spare tire and like, I don't want it to be bad, but I also don't need it to be the fanciest, nicest thing ever, because I find my worth in other things.
But your question was, does this work on levels that aren't just financial?
Yeah.
So do you have an example of that?
I mean, the clothing thing, it's not because I don't want to buy clothes. It's more so...
Well, here's one. Food. Okay, well, I want to eat healthier. Or I've been craving pasta. It's like, all right, well.
Don't you dare say anything bad about pasta.
We love pasta.
Asaros.
Asaros that's it.
They got it down.
But one of the things that, like, okay, well, we have 2 steaks in the fridge right now that we need to eat, but we haven't eaten them. And they're getting closer and closer to their due date. Mm-hmm. But I just haven't...
Their due date? Are they pregnant?
That would be amazing.
Just more beefs all the time?
Oh, what a great thing. If only beef could bring about more beef.
I know, right?
Only if that was possible. But like, I don't want steak right now, which now I just sound like a...
I don't want steak.
I haven't been in the mood for it, you
Yeah.
know? It's in the fridge. We need to cook it. I haven't been in the mood for it. But if I were to go online and I were to start reading about steaks,
Yeah.
then I were reading like, okay, how should I best prepare this? And what would be something good on the side? And I start looking at pictures, or if I watch something that is somebody cooking a steak on YouTube or whatever, all of a sudden I'm going to remember everything about the steak. I'm going to get super excited about the steak. And so that's another example of like...
I think I know what this is, Ryan. It's advertising.
I'm hungry now.
I think what you're doing is you are doing forced advertising on yourself by what you choose to look at. So advertising, the way it works, you're watching a show
Yep.
and suddenly Taco Bell comes on and it looks amazing and it sounds amazing and it just suddenly makes your mouth water and you go, well, Taco Bell's open late. Let's go. What they're doing is they're projecting something into your brain that, and this is literally what happened in the 1950s. They said, you deserve a better house. You deserve a vacuum cleaner. You deserve food that's in this tin thing that you just rip off and microwave, and then your whole family gets to eat food in front of the TV. Like, you deserve it. And they literally changed culture by telling people they deserve this product that they were selling.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is self-advertising. And this is one of the reasons I will not allow any advertising.
Yeah. You have YouTube Red. We have ad-free, all the
and
things.
some of these podcasts, they'll sneak it in. They'll be like, today's thing is... I'm like running for the phone. Skip.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. I don't even know. I
Yeah.
don't even want to know who their sponsor is anymore.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even the other day we were talking about getting a VPN, or not we, but I was talking to a couple of people about it. And the
What's
only
that?
one, it's a thing where it basically sends your... I don't know. I'm not a tech guy, but it makes it to where people can't access your information as easily or whatever. It's like a more secure way to browse the internet and all this stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. ExpressVPN.
Like, you have to pay for it to see it?
No, what it does is it like takes your IP... Oh, God, I'm going to sound like an idiot. I don't know. It's
You know
something
what I
about
mean.
your IP address and puts it in another country so that people
Oh.
can't, like, something with the IP
Spy
address.
on you?
This is so outside of my...
I'm always curious about this stuff.
But the only one I knew of was ExpressVPN, because I feel like everybody says that on this podcast, brought to you by ExpressVPN. This thing, you know, it's always like ExpressVPN.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like that. I was immediately drawn to that company, knowing nothing about VPNs. Obviously, I can't even tell you what they do.
Yeah.
But that was the one that I'm like, oh, if I were to get one, I'd probably get that. No,
Yeah.
that's nonsense.
Yep.
I do not like anybody telling me what I should or should not like.
Or making you feel like you are lacking something if you don't have it. That's the biggest issue I had with social media, which is why when I'm not on there, which I haven't been for months now, you don't feel so bad about yourself. You don't feel like, oh no, the whole world is moving in this direction. Everybody has one of those. That's what they do with kids. Like, watch kids commercials. They have this group of kids that are all happy playing with this toy. And of course, kids, you know, they want friends, they want toys, they want all that stuff. And the way that they market to them makes them feel, if they don't have that thing right now, like, they're going to freak out.
Well, and that's how I felt as a kid. I remember that feeling of, like, I just need this thing so bad.
Yep.
I wish if I just had it, I would be so happy. I would
Yeah.
play with it, and I would be, you know, usually had to do with Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles.
But honestly, it did make you happy for a little bit. And that's I think that
no, it didn't. This is the thing. This is how I remember those things.
Okay.
When I would get them, I would have this major remorse. Like, it did not feel that feeling that I was
it because
looking
you got
for.
a bunch of presents at the same time, so that
No.
one thing you wanted didn't matter?
No. It was
Wow.
just the way it was. And I still feel that way. And
You know what's funny? I just said, like, it made you feel better. I actually remember really wanting a Woody doll way back in the day, obviously, last year. And I remember the only time that I ever peeked on a present, I just desperately wanted. Maybe it was a Jessie doll and a Woody doll. There was something in that Toy Story world that I, like, desperately wanted. And I remember just wanting it so bad that I just needed to check to make sure that they had gotten it for me. And I remember I literally just pushed. I wasn't even intending to peek. I just wanted to feel and be like, is this the box? Because I had felt it in the store.
Sure.
And I literally like pushed because the plastic was bendy on the front and it tore a little bit of the wrapping paper. And I just like peeked in. And it was not an exciting feeling to be like, yes, it's there. That's not what I felt. It was more like, oh. And I just remembered that when you said it didn't make you feel good. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Maybe my memory of it was, oh, these things will make me happy because they always made me happy. But when you really think about it, they didn't.
It's just like it's anything that you do that's new. I think ultimately I'm more excited. I get more interested in the actual hunt for the thing than the thing itself.
Yeah.
And so often I'm like, oh, I'll use, again, cameras are a great example because there's just so many new ones coming out all the time and all this stuff. And I'm always real excited, like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And I lay out like this whole plan and scenario, why, justifying everything. And then eventually I realize like, I shouldn't actually get this. This isn't going to do anything for me other than make me poor. And
but you lived in the world of the possibility of owning it.
Right. And so
that's
now
I'll
just do the fantasy.
That's why we go on Zillow.
That's why people go. I don't think we're alone in this. I think Zillow probably has so much traffic just from people that are doing what we're.
Because here's the thing. It makes me, and I explained this to someone the other day. I'm like, going on Zillow doesn't make me look at my house and go, I don't like it. Like, we need to leave. I am so curious when I like go through neighborhoods and stuff and I see houses that look awesome. I am so curious about what it looks like inside, how they decorated it, the corners and the corridors, and like what does the ceiling look like, and the tile floor, is it the Spanish tile that I like? I go through those things. And so going on Zillow is kind of like house fantasy porn. You just go in and you go, if I lived there. And then you just live in this world of, and I especially love the ones where there's just like too many pictures. Zillow people, don't post pictures of like the beach if it's like near the beach. I don't care.
Total buzzkill.
I don't like going through and going like, oh, there's like no pictures of the house. Oh, here's a bird.
Yep.
Here's a squirrel. Yep. I know that those things exist. I can Google them if I want.
My favorite is just like a picture of like a pine tree.
It's like, this is somewhere near the house.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people don't Zillow properly, but the ones where like a real estate agent came in and took amazing pictures, it's amazing to look and just go like, oh, that would be so fun. And it's the moment of looking through those things that you really enjoy. And then once you're done with it, it kind of feeds that fuel of like, I need something different. I need something different. And you've lived in those different houses for a moment. And then you go back to your house and you go like, oh, okay, this is all good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good or not.
I like it. Eventually, I think it's going to make me really want a new house.
Just because you like it doesn't mean it's good. I mean,
that's also where we differ on our philosophies. There's some things that say, like, if it's good for you, it's evil. And then some that say, if it's good for you, that's all you should be doing. You know?
Yeah, I don't really buy into either of those.
That's what I'm saying. We need to be a little bit of both.
Well, I think it comes back to it's a good way to kind of have some sort of fantasy or have some sort of ideal.
You
about
need
the
that.
future.
You don't need it all the time. You don't need to live in it. But if you kill it, you're going to be like Ryan a couple years ago when he was super sad.
It wasn't sad.
No, definitely not. Nobody gets sad.
No, definitely
sad?
not me.
What? No.
So what was the rule that we just finished up?
What was it? Decide what you should want before you start to want it.
Yeah. So
I think that's a great one.
Yeah.
And I do think it works. Initially, I said I don't think I agree with it. And I think that we'll probably find some examples of things that actually don't work with that. I'm curious to know if anybody in the comments is like, I have this thing that I want or don't want, because maybe it works with what you don't want too. Like, I really, really want this big house. Okay, well, force yourself to want a small house, and then maybe you won't feel that way. You know? Maybe it works in reverse. I don't really know, but I know it works for some things, especially when it's financially motivated. I think when people are like, I don't want to spend much money, but I want these expensive things, you can want the cheaper things for sure. I don't know if it works for all things.
I feel like I'm just now realizing that you are out of focus.
No. What if I was back here? It doesn't matter. It's a podcast. It's all about the audio.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I'm horrible at focus.
It's okay. But I think Caleb will be coming in to record soon, so
Yeah.
we should probably end this.
Hey, thanks for having me on your show.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for coming and being on the show and being the thing that made the show run. Couldn't have done it without you.
I do hit the button.
You do hit it.
I hit it.
You hit it, and then you quit it, because we're about to quit it. That should not be the ending.
Is that how you want to end?
I don't want to end it. I'm really bad at intros and outros. I just we just need to end it, like in the middle of the sentence.
Just like they do on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where it's just you.
Let's do...